Good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa with Magnet Forensics, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today entitled PC Imaging with Magnet Acquire Community Edition 2.0. We're joined today by Jamie McQuaig, also from Magnet Forensics, who will lead us in our discussion. In this webinar, we will demonstrate how the latest version of Magnet Acquire can now help you image computers and removable media using targeted acquisition. With many cases now involving a variety of devices, we've expanded the capabilities of our tool to provide you with a single solution for imaging both smartphones and computers. Jamie will also answer your questions in a live Q&A session after the presentation, so please submit your questions into the GoToMeeting client during or after the presentation, and we'll do our best to get through as many as possible. Available for viewing at magnetforensics.com shortly after our session. I'll turn it over to Jamie to begin our discussion.
Thanks, Melissa. So let's get started here, everyone, and let me just open up these slides here and get going. So what are we going to talk about today? Melissa mentioned it briefly, but I'm going to do a brief introduction about myself and Magnet Acquire, really the transition between version 1 and version 2 and what's included in that. And then I'm going to talk a bit more about the specifics, and then obviously we're going to get hands-on with it. So I've got a few slides to show right off the bat, but for the most part we're going to be spending the time within Magnet Acquire and IEF to show how it works. And then, like Melissa said, there's going to be some time for some questions at the end. So feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. It doesn't matter to me. We'll save all the answering them until the end, but you can ask throughout, and we'll just flag them as to answer at the end. So let's jump right into it. Melissa mentioned my name is Jamie McQuaid, and I'm a forensic consultant with Magnet Forensics. I came on board to the Magnet team back in 2013. Before that, I worked as a corporate investigator for BlackBerry. So I did both technical and forensic investigations with them, broad range of different case types, anything from policy violations, HR investigations, IP theft, hacking, intrusions, a lot of that stuff. So quite familiar with a lot of different corporate cases. So let's get going. Those of you who aren't aware who we are, we're Magnet Forensics. We were founded by Jad Saliba, who is a law enforcement officer with Waterloo Regional Police Force here in Waterloo, Ontario. He originally developed Internet Evidence Finder, or IEF, to help with his investigations and other police investigations. But in 2011, he left WRPS to work on IEF full-time, which now you see us as Magnet Forensics. IEF, which is our primary tool, specializes in recovering third-party applications, so we look in the most common pieces to it. Today we're going to focus, though, on Magnet Acquire. So we added Magnet Acquire in the fall of last year after a nice beta. This was IEF. Magnet IEF itself was an analysis tool. We relied on other tools to do the acquisition of the PC and mobile devices, and then you can load it into IEF for analysis. Magnet Acquire is exactly what it says it is an acquisition tool. It's available on our website. It's free, so anybody who's interested in, if you haven't tried it out, give it a try. Version 1 focused on iOS and Android smartphone acquisition. So when we first released it last fall, we solely focused on iOS and Android smartphone devices. We found there was a gap in acquisition options for those devices, and obviously the majority of the devices out there were iOS and Android. So we had two methods really to do extractions with those iOS and Android devices. The quick method, which was it was really built around the ability to extract some data from any iOS or Android phone, no matter what version or model or carrier it was on. We wanted to at least be able to get something with the quick method. We also had a full physical or file system method that allowed you to extract obviously much more data, but it wouldn't work for every device. It only works for certain devices where we were able to root it, or it was already jailbroken for the iOS devices. And again, like I said, it's a free tool, so we certainly recommend you guys giving it a try and seeing how it can help in your investigations. Today, we're going to talk about Magnet Acquire 2.0. We released this just recently in December. It's again still free, but the big additional the add-on for it is the support for PC acquisition. So hard drives, USB devices, those sort of things we've added on to the mobile side of things. So there are now 3 methods to acquire a PC image, and I'll get into more detail about these when I show you going through the tool, but I wanted to give you a quick preview of them here. The first one we have is a full physical image, which is exactly what it sounds. It's a bit-for-bit forensic image of the disk. This is an exact what you would expect with most other PC acquisition tools. We also have the second method is it's called all files and folders, and really what this is a logical acquisition of all the files and folders on system. This doesn't include slack space or unallocated space or anything like that, so you're going to be missing those pieces. Obviously they would be included in the full physical, but sometimes you just want the logical acquisition of what's on the system, so that option's available for you as well. The third one, which I really like myself, is really useful for myself anyway, is called the targeted acquisition. And really what this is it's a quick acquisition of the most common files that would be relevant to us as examiners. And again, I'll show you what that includes here in a short second here. But really those 3 types are really fit in line with the same side with the quick and the full on the mobile side as well. So let's just keep going, and you can see what I'm talking about. So the output, I mentioned this real quick first. The output, depending on which option you choose for Magnet Acquire, is either a raw DD type image or a zip file, depending on the options chosen. So the full physical would be a raw DD image of the device. So if it's a 400 gig hard drive, you're going to get a 400 gig raw DD image. Now I'll show you in a second, we can segment those out, but it will be a bit-for-bit copy of that. The other 2 options for the files and folders and the targeted search will zip everything up into a container for you, so you can analyze it with either IEF or really any other tool that you're using in your investigation. Tools, obviously we prefer you to use IEF, but we're not going to limit you in terms of your analysis for that as well. So let's jump out of these slides and get into the Acquire program and actually take a look at it. Let me just close out our slides here. There we go. All right. So you guys can see this on my screen, hopefully, which is great. This is Magnet Acquire. I've got it installed on my laptop here, and we can see I've got actually 2 devices that it's detected here. An Android smartphone, this is an Android Galaxy S3 that I've connected, as well as a large 2 terabyte Seagate drive that I use for storage here. So we can see I have the choice to analyze either of these devices right out of the same program, which is something really we really like to do, and we were really happy that we could do this. We don't have to make 2 separate acquisition tools here. You can acquire these devices side by side. You really just need to pick which one you want to include. I'm going to remove the Android device because I've got a different hard drive that we're going to use for example here, but I just wanted to show that real quick here. So let me remove the Android device that I have connected, so it'll disappear in just a second, and I will connect, and you guys can't see this, but I've got a Tableau Write Blocker connected through a 450 gig laptop hard drive that should come up here in just a second once it goes through. We're going to use the Seagate as my destination drive, but we'll just wait for the Write Blocker to power up here for a second, and it should come up in a minute here. But again, you can choose to analyze any drive that you connect to this machine. It can be a USB device, it can be an SD card if you've got the ports for it. There it comes. One thing it does not do currently, it will not image local drives. We left that out initially. It's probably not the most common scenario, so we didn't really focus on it. But you can certainly analyze any other connected drive other than the local ones. So now we've got the 2 terabyte Seagate as well. We have this 465 gig, 500 gig hard drive. Like I said, you can't see it, but it's connected through my Tableau Write Blocker to prevent any writes and to maintain the integrity of the evidence. So from here, I've just selected the second hard drive, which is going to be what our evidence here. I'm going to hit next. And now we get the drive options, or the image options here. Again, these are the same three that I just mentioned. You've got the entire contents of the drive, which is the full physical, which I previously mentioned. You've got the logical of the all files and folders. And then we've got the quick targeted acquisition. And if you're ever concerned or ever unsure of what this entails, you can always hit this more info button here. So if I click more info, this brings up another window and just tells you exactly what that includes. And like I said, this is a bit-for-bit image, and it's going to give you a raw DD type output. Okay, same goes for the all files and folders. We select more info, and it gives you a bit more details into what is actually included in that dump. Most importantly, though, if we go to target acquisition, you really want to know what's included. Well, that's going to depend on what your evidence is, what type of evidence you're loading in here. Now, obviously, you won't be able to do a targeted search on every drive you connect, only on drives where Acquire is going to recognize the file system. And obviously, it's going to recognize the same file systems that we support for IEF or Internet Evidence Finder. So I need Linux, Mac, or Windows PCs. Just off the top of my head, the file systems we do support: NTFS, FAT, 12, 16, 32, exFAT. For Linux, we support ext2, 3, and 4. Macs, we support HFS Plus or HFSX for the Android or the iOS side, and for Android as well, we have a number of Android ones as well. So we're just focusing on the PC side here, so that's not a problem. But you can see that this is what's included in the targeted. So we've got the page file, hibernation file, the MFT, USN journals, event logs, setup API logs. These are the most common things you're going to look for: the registry hives, link files, user profiles, prefetch. Most of the evidence you're going to be looking for is going to be stacked under the user profiles in the app data folder. So as long as you get that, you're still going to get a lot of those third-party apps, a lot of the browsing activity, anything else that would be really important to your investigation. And it'll certainly save you time and space on your evidence as well. It might not be useful for every case, but it will be useful in terms of if you're looking for a quick preview of what's on the evidence. So I'm going to hit OK here, and we can pick and choose. You will not always have the option to do an all files and folders or a targeted search. Sometimes those will be grayed out if IEF or if Acquire does not recognize the drive that's connected there. I don't have it with me, but an Xbox 360 hard drive would be a good example of that. You can still do a full physical image of it, but because we don't support the file system, the FATX file system that's on the Xbox 360, it will gray out these other two, because if it can't read the logical file system, it won't be able to pull out these files. But you should always be able to do the full physical acquisition there. All right, so we're going to leave it on the full physical here and hit next. And now we get the evidence where you want to save your case. Create the evidence folder. Very simple. All you need, the required fields are in bold here. Really all you need is a folder name and a folder destination. I'm not going to actually run the acquisition here because obviously we don't want to, it's pretty boring actually. Once you hit acquire, it just starts processing through. We don't need to actually run through the acquisition part, but I've already got the results already made up for you. But really all you need is these two fields here that are in bold, the folder name and the destination. And I've got that saved to my my Seagate 2 terabyte drive there as well. I've also put in the examiner name. You can also put evidence numbers or any description that you'd like as well. Once we've got all that set up, you can hit acquire, or you could go up to the options button here and select options. So we've got a few other options here: updates, log files. What we want to focus on here is preferences. So if I choose preferences, we have a few extra options that might be important to your investigation. So I've got it selected here in segmenting the image into 4 gig segments. But if I pull that down, you can pick and choose anything. By default, there is no segments made. So if I was going to image a full image of this 465 gig hard drive, if I leave it on none, you're going to get a 465 gig image file out at the other side. Sometimes that's great, that's all you want, but sometimes it's a little bit easier if you can break that up. So we've broken it up into, depending on the media that you're going to copy it to, you can choose a CD, which will do 650 megs, a DVD, 4.4 gigs, a double layered, 8 gigs, Blu-ray for 23, FAT, which is the 4 gig limit for FAT drives, or you can actually customize any size you want based on gigabytes. It's really up to you. I usually stick with the 4 gig limit just in case I need to copy it to another drive, but I know my Seagate drive here is in NTFS, so the 4 gig limit isn't a problem, and I could actually just keep none and leave the segmentation. But we're going to leave it on FAT here. Image hashing is optional. It's on by default. This basically just means it's going to give you hashing results. At the end of it, it'll go through and hash and compare the hashes of the original evidence and your image just to ensure that they match up. But that is optional if you want to turn that off and do your own hashing separately from that. That's certainly available. This other stuff is more geared towards diagnostic information and mobile, but this is an option to send diagnostic information. It doesn't send any details about your case or anything like that to us, but if you're connected to the internet and you wanted to send diagnostic information, it really just tells us if there's any errors or whatnot. It really helps us troubleshoot issues, and that's it. I have it on, but you can pick and choose, and it gives you that option. It's the first time you install Acquire. Software updates, again, automatically update if you're connected to the internet, which works great. If not, you'll have to manually update. And then restore device state is more for the mobile side. On a number of mobile acquisitions, we will install an agent. This really just allows us to get more data, and this gives you the option whether you want to remove the agent once complete or leave it on there. So that's more on the mobile side. So I'm just going to hit cancel here because it'll leave it all on the same settings. And like I said, we would normally just hit the acquire button and our process would begin. And it would start stepping through the entire process. Like I said, I'm not going to do that right now just because we don't need to wait for it to finish. But it would process through, depending on what the size of the drive and the options you've chosen. It could take anywhere from 5 minutes to 5-10 hours. Depending on the drive. I know I've done a couple of really large 2 terabyte drives that do take quite a bit of time, but it's relatively comparable to most other acquisition tools that you might be using. So I'm just going to minimize this here, and I'm going to show you what those results look like. So if I go browse to my Seagate drive here, and I go to the Acquire webinar, I've already acquired 2 different images, and I did that just the other day here. The first one here, if I open that up and take a look, this is the quick image that I've done. This is the targeted image. So every image will have this imageinfo.txt and this activitylog.txt file. And this really helps you troubleshoot or log any activity you've done during your acquisition. The activity log is a straight log, so let's open it up. Oh, it opened up on the wrong screen for me here, so let me just move that over for you. Here we go. This is the activity log, and this tells you exactly what Acquire has done. You can see, start to finish, you've got it very detailed. It'll tell you if there's any errors in it. We can see there's a few errors in my targeted acquisition, and this is normal. Sometimes it won't find a certain file, and the error is just saying, hey, I couldn't find this. We'll just get it or skip it and move on. Unless it's something you're absolutely expecting, sometimes each image is not going to have everything you need. You're not always going to have a page file or a hibernation file or anything like that. You don't always have all of those files there. So if it's missing, then you might get an error. But otherwise, it's an exact log of exactly what has happened. And at the end, it'll say the operation completed successfully. The next file, if I go to imageinfo.txt, very similar. It just says exactly, it gives me details about the actual image. So I've included the hashes, so it did the hashing, it did a start and end time, it gives you some details about the device, the identifier, the cylinders, sectors, all of that sort of stuff, serial numbers, and any partitions that were found on it. So this can be really useful for your reporting as well. All right. And just to take a quick look inside the zip file, if I open that up, There we go. We open this up and we can see that there's the 4 volumes here. I can't remember which one. There we go. And we can actually dig in and see these are the most common files. Now, obviously, this isn't a complete image. This is the targeted image. So if you go under users, you'll see that you'll get just the specific data. You get the app data. You get the NT users or the any of the registry hives and really what's important to your investigation. All right, let's close that off. And let's compare that to a full image of this same hard drive. So if I go back in here, I've got the full image of the exact same hard drive. And we can see here, let me just make that a little bit bigger. Now we've got 4 gig segments, which they said we did the 4 gig segments here. And the extensions are 001, 2, 3, and there should be about 117 of them here, if my math's right. Yep. So 117 segments, 4 gigs apiece, roughly gives us the 265 gig image. So this is just a flat raw image, a bit-for-bit image of that same hard drive. You can open that up with most tools. It's a raw DD image, and we've got it segmented, but you could choose the options of consolidating it. It's totally up to you. We still have that activity log, and at the bottom, we still have the image info.txt. So those files will always be there. It just depends on your image type. Now we've got the image. How do we load that into IEF? So let me just minimize it here, and let me just launch IEF for us. Oh. There we go, move that over. Okay, so now we've got this into IEF. How do we load those images? It's very easy. All you need to know, for both the zip and the raw DD images, you both go under images here. If you were using Acquire to add mobile, you would go under mobile. If we're under images though, for PC images, you select images right here. So I'm going to select images. And we're already on the full physical. You can see it starts with the 001, and it only shows that first file. You only have to load in the first one, and it will load in all the other ones. If you want to see all of them, we can just show all files. And you can see we've got the same view of all the way to number 117. Okay, but again, it's by default, it's only going to show you the first one, and that's the only one you need to select. So we select it there. We hit open. It detects all the partitions that we have here in the unpartitioned space. So we're going to leave, we can leave everything, or we can pick and choose. We can see that the majority of the details are going to be here on this partition 4. That's going to be where most of our evidence is found, but you might want to analyze these other partitions as well. So we'll leave them all checked off and hit next. And now we get the search options. So we go through each partition here, and it'll search through each one of them. And if we scroll over a bit here, you can see the search type is going to be full for most of them, except for the unpartitioned space because there's no file system there. But you can pick and choose what types of searches you wanted to do on each of them as well. It's going to default to full if it recognizes the file system that we've acquired. But you can also jump to a quick or a custom or even a sector level search. The sector level search is basically it'll rely on carving and keyword searches to pull out any artifacts. This is what happens if you load in evidence that maybe doesn't have a file system or we don't recognize the file system. So I use that Xbox 360 hard drive as an example. It would default to a sector level search. You can still search it. It's just not going to be as thorough as a full search. It's going to do just carving to look at that. But we're going to leave everything here on full just for example's sake. And I'm going to hit OK. So that gets queued up there, and we can continue with our analysis. We could also add that targeted image in the exact same way. So normally you wouldn't image both. You would either targeted or the full. I've just chosen both just to show the example here, but we can go into images here. I'll go back one level, and we can see there's the other image that I had created previously. And go in there, there's the zip file, and again, we can show all files. You can see there's, again, the same view we had in the on the actual device. But again, we just want to focus on that zip file. We can hit open. It'll just have, refresh here just a second. It'll just have the one partition or one zip container because that's how it's laid out. So we'll just hit OK. And it gets added in here very easily. Okay. So again, I'm going to remove it just because we don't need it for our example here, but I just wanted to show that to you guys. So now that we've got our evidence loaded in, we can just hit next. And now we get the artifact page. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'll happily answer any questions to it, but I think most of you might be familiar with IEF and how it works. So I'm not going to go into the details of what it's going to look for, but these are all the artifacts that we're going to look for on that drive. So you can see we've got a number of chat programs, cloud artifacts, documents, email, pictures, video, OS artifacts, P2P activity, social networking, and web-related browsing activity as well. So I won't go into any specific artifacts, but I'm going to leave them all checked here and include that for my entire search. I'm going to hit next, and now we get the case information. So now if we want to process this, this case, all I need to do is fill out the path, the folder name. I can put a case number if I want. It's totally up to you. Examiner name, and we've got all our evidence there. From here, I would hit the Find Evidence button, and it would begin processing. Again, the processing could take a matter of minutes. It could take a number of hours. It'll totally depend on the evidence you have, what's on the drive, and what types of searches you've chosen. But generally, it'll pull out a nice report at the end of everything it's found. So let's take a look at what those results look like. And really what I want to do here is compare what you get with a targeted search versus what you would get with a full search. Obviously, there's going to be less with the targeted search, but quite often the time it's going to save you is going to be worth it in terms of comparing the two details. So let me just open up the two reports here, and I have them on my desktop already. So we've got the targeted search right here as well as the full search results. And let me just open up each of them. Let's see here. There we go. Open it up. There we go. And we can see here, this is the quick image that I've acquired here. So this is the targeted search with a quick image, and we can see we've got quite a bit of details for this case. And again, this is just a random hard drive. Like I said, it's a 450 gig hard drive that I use. We did use this for a number of test cases and that. But you can see that there's quite a bit of OS artifacts on here, including USB devices. You can see there's a bunch of USB devices that I picked up here. You can see user accounts, user assists, some prefetch files here that might be useful for your case. Link files, a lot of OS artifacts that might be useful. Some browsing activity for IE, some Chrome stuff, social networking, Facebook chat, P2P activity, so some torrent files or eMule or FrostWire, pictures, video. We've got some email here as well, some documents, PDF, PowerPoint, some chat stuff from MIRC and some chat roulette, and even some Google searches as well. If we compare that to the full search, obviously we're going to get more, but again, it might not be necessarily too important to your case. So there's quite a bit more browsing activity that's included in here. And we've got some Skype details that also got picked up in our search. So you've got some additional Skype details that were missed with the targeted, but we got with the full. We've got some cloud artifacts with Dropbox here, so we can see we've got some Dropbox details that were found. Some additional documents. Now remember that the full will try to carve out details. It'll try to carve anything out. The targeted, we didn't get any unallocated data, so it's not going to do any carving to pull that data out. So that's why you're noticing a significant difference in documents that were found on the drive. And really the full is going to find the entire physical disk, so it's going to have every file and folder and search through every file and folder on that drive. Some additional pictures and video. some more social networking, web-related. We've got some additional Chrome details that the targeted didn't pick up, some more IE stuff, and then back to the OS artifacts again, some additional stuff, some more link files, some additional USB devices. I believe there was 14 or so in the last one, if I go down. Yeah, so it got a few extra USB devices. They may or may not be important to your case. It looks like the majority of the important ones are right here, but that's certainly important as well. So I didn't want to go too much detail into the analysis part because the focus of this presentation was really on the acquisition side and the new features of Magnet Acquire. So I wanted to stop there and open it up to any questions you guys might have. So it looks like there's a few on there. But so I'm going to pass it back to Melissa for a second. I'll switch back to the slides, and we can certainly answer any questions you guys might have. PC or mobile, I'll certainly answer them. Obviously, we're focusing on the PC side, but I'll happily answer any mobile acquisition questions as well. So let me jump to the slides, and Melissa can go as well. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thanks, Jamie. So as you guys have seen today, Magnet Acquire is a software solution that enables digital forensics examiners to quickly and easily acquire forensic images from iOS or Android devices, as well as hard drives and removable media. So this tool is available to the forensics community at no cost. So if you are an existing Magnet IEF customer, you can download it today from the Magnet customer portal. If you're not currently a Magnet IEF customer, you just have to visit magnetforensics.com/magnet-acquire, and you can request access to that software. If you haven't had a chance to try Magnet IEF, we'd also like to offer you guys a free 30-day trial, and we encourage you to try it with the images that you do obtain from Magnet Acquire. So to do that, just visit magnetforensics.com/trial, and you can download your trial today. So we will begin our Q&A session right now. So if you guys want to submit your questions through the GoToMeeting client, Jamie will do his best to get through as many as we can.
Thanks. I'll go through and just read off the questions there. It looks like there's a bunch coming in here. So the first one is, can Magnet Acquire be used to do a quick targeted type acquisition from an image as opposed to getting the data from a connected physical drive? So will it work with a drive that is virtually mounted? Not currently, because it's virtually mounted as a drive. I do know that we are looking at options for that in terms of doing local drives and locally mounted drives, but it will not come up unless it's a physical drive at this point. But yeah, absolutely, you know, this is our first go at adding the PC side, so I will certainly say that we do have plans on adding quite a bit more features to this. So that's certainly down the line there. And virtually mounted as a volume, yes. It'll come up as a local drive. So right now that's not supported, but yeah, I would say you could probably see that in the future. I don't have an exact timeline for it, but yeah, we're going to keep adding to this, and it will certainly come down eventually. Do you plan to support remote acquisitions in the future? Possibly. We haven't done much with remote on the IEF side or the acquisition side. I do know IEF will work great if you are using another tool to establish that connection. So if you were using something like FResponse to make the connection out there, it would certainly work. And actually, if you were using FResponse, it should come up as a physical drive connected to your machine. So that virtual connection would work. But we don't have anything built into IEF or Acquire at this point, but there's certainly a possibility of us adding that in the future, yes. So we do work with other tools to establish that connection, but we don't make it ourselves right now. Does Acquire do the write blocking, or does that require a hardwired write blocker? Acquire has zero write blocking built into it itself on the software level, so it does require a hardware write blocker or another form of software write blocking. I know you can use, you know, if it's connected through a USB, you can block reads and writes to a USB port in Windows. I don't necessarily, on a personal level, trust it as much as if I was using a hardware write blocker, so I always still use a hardware write blocker. Like I said, in this example, I'm using a Tableau. That Tableau, it's an older one, so it's a little slow, but it certainly works, any sort of hardware write blocker. But we haven't built any software-based write blocking built into here, just because most people, even if you do build in the software one, most people still end up using the hardware just because it's a little more trustworthy in that sense. But absolutely, it's certainly an option that we could do in the future. You choose mobile for a phone image or images. Oh, so this question was around when I loaded those images into IEF. Yes, so for any PC images on that main screen, if I can actually jump back to it, that would probably be easier to show you. Let me jump back a few screens here, and I can show that. There we go. So on this screen, the question was, if I was going to load in a mobile image, how would I do that? Yes, you would go under mobile here. You would choose your type of device, so if it's an Android device, and then I can choose images here, right? So it is a different setup. This is just for PC images on the main screen here. The mobile images get loaded in under mobile here. So you're absolutely correct. That's how it would get loaded in there. How much time is saved using quick targeted versus a full? You're going to save a lot of time, really, but again, it might not work for every case that you're using. I know there's certain cases where I'm going to do a full acquisition, but I might do a targeted analysis, or I might do a targeted analysis and then fully. I know for this, and bear in mind that my write blocker is USB 2, so it's really slow. The targeted search took about 12 minutes, I think, or the targeted acquisition, sorry, took about 12 minutes, and the full took about 8 or 9 hours to do the actual acquisition. So it's a slow write blocker, so that's my bottleneck for the full, but you can notice a huge difference in terms of what gets pulled in there. So yes, you're going to save a lot of time, both on the acquisition side and the analysis side, because IEF will have much less or a lot less to actually go through and analyze as well. So you're going to save time on both doing that targeted acquisition. And I haven't seen it yet, but I know there's going to be a question around, can you pick and choose what is targeted? Not right now, but that's definitely something we're talking about in terms of adding the options, in terms of just adding a checkbox and say, hey, I want to include the MFT, but I don't want to include the page file, or I don't want to include the hibernation file or something like that. Allowing you to pick and choose that is certainly going to be hopefully an option in the future as well. It's not right now, but it's definitely something we're discussing right now as well. Let me see here real quick. There's a few more questions here. How do you acquire iOS devices? Do you need a PIN? Yes, currently right now we do not do any bootloader attacks. So you do need to have the computer or the phone unlocked in order to do the acquisition for iOS. Same goes with Android devices. We don't do any bootloader attacks for either of them. So you do need to have the USB debugging enabled, which means you have to have actual access to the device to enable that and allow it to trust the computer. So I think that answers both your questions there in terms of iOS and Android. You do need to know the PIN or password. Again, we are looking at other options down the future, but currently right now you require that in order to do the image. Will the target mode image the iOS backup files on a Windows and PC? That's a really good question. Let me think about that. If it's included, it depends on where it's stored. I want to say typically yes, if the backup images files are stored in the default location under the user's profile, which is quite common, those will get included in the actual image. That should be fine. So as long as it's under the user profile, say it's on his desktop, you can choose where that's not included in the targeted search. So that will throw off the search there. So so let's keep going here. Can you do a quick on a scene or at the scene? The quick acquire on the scene, so you're talking about a live, like a live acquisition. on a live system, I normally wouldn't suggest installing Acquire onto the user's computer if it's a live computer, but we do have a triage product that does exactly that. It runs off of the USB, and it will do an acquisition, IEF triage will acquire both memory and a targeted acquisition of the device using that triage product. So not that do the less of an impact on it. They run independently. If you install Acquire, you know if that's in the works yet or not, but yes, a portable version of Acquire would make sense. Right now, like I said, it does require the .NET framework in order to work, but it's certainly something we can do, look at in the future in terms of adding a portable version that can run off a USB. That it certainly can. Let me see. Oh, your question was about in terms of iOS backups. I'm assuming you're talking about email on the PC side. I would say yes, but it depends on where that email is stored. So if you've got PST files under the US user's profile, then it should get picked up. But email in itself, if it's elsewhere on the system, it won't. It'll depend if it's in that location under the user profile under app data, which it normally is. But so you should get the PC email. If you're referring to the iOS backup email, usually that doesn't get included in the iOS backup, so that doesn't cover it. But I think you were talking about more on the PC side. Absolutely. Is there any other questions there? There's a lot of them there. Hopefully I explained most of them or got through most of them that you guys wanted to see. I'll leave it open there for any other questions. I mentioned it. Feel free, if you haven't tried out or used Magnet Acquire, go onto our website. The link is on the screen there. Should be coming up in a second for you guys. There we go, coming up right now. So Magnet Acquire, magnetforensics.com/magnet-acquire. You can sign up. If you are a current customer, you can really just log into the customer portal and download it. If you're not a customer, you can request access and we can get you approved and allow you to use that for sure. There was another question here, raw memory dumps. How have you seen customers process memory dumps? Yes, I process memory dumps all the time. I love using memory for analysis. You can load it in just as a regular image. Like I said before, there's no file system there, so when you get to the search screen, it'll automatically jump to a sector level search, and it won't let you memory dump. Source of evidence as my favorite memory, a memory dump would be my first go-to choice for sure. There was another question here. See. Will Acquire add an option to remove the installed software from the mobile devices, or will this manual removal always be the option? The option to remove the installed software. Yes, we have that option already in there, Tim. I don't know if you caught that, but under the options, right at the bottom there, the agent that gets installed for Magnet Acquire on the mobile. So that option, do we automatically remove it or do we add it? That's it's of choice. Is that for acquiring memory or analyzing it? I'll give you mine for both. But for acquiring it, we actually have our own memory acquisition tool. So Magnet RAM Capture, it's a free tool again. You can use it. It's very lightweight, very simple. To do memory acquisition. I use that to do memory. It's actually very, very fast too. I was really impressed. I do my 8 gig drive or memory on this laptop, and it takes them only a couple of minutes. So I'm going to support ours in there, but there are a number of other tools. If you're looking for the standard IEF artifacts, IEF analyzes memory really well. I also like, if I'm doing any sort of malware cases, Volatility, Redline are two really good analysis tools as well, along with IEF. So hope that answered your question there as well. Perfect. If that's everything, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. And again, if you guys have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out.